Spider-Man made a choice: save the stranger or chase the villain. He chose to save a life. But that life wasn't innocent. It was a dormant alien host, a prison for something ancient. And when Peter touched him, it transferred. Not a symbiote, not a parasite. Something worse, something that thinks like Peter, but acts like a god. Now the Avengers don't know who they're fighting, and neither does Peter. The alley was cold, wet, breathing. Peter didn't have time to question why the walls felt like they were pulsing. His spider sense was screaming, dragging him left, then right, then straight toward the sound of a scream. A man was being beaten, two shadows towering over him, fists flying, boots thudding. Peter moved before his thoughts could catch up, flipping over the dumpster and landing between the attackers with a sickening thud. "Back off," he said. The muggers didn't wait. One pulled a knife. The other reached for something glowing. Tech. Probably stolen. Peter disarmed them both in seconds. A few cracks, one web to the mouth, and they were down. He turned to the man curled on the ground, clutching his chest. He was shivering, muttering something in a language Peter couldn't place. Not alien, not quite human either. Peter bent down, extending a hand. "You're okay now. I got them. You're safe." The man's eyes snapped open, too wide. Black pupils, ringed with burning red. His hand clutched Peter's wrist. "Don't touch me," he croaked. "You don't know what you've..." And then he collapsed. Dead. No pulse. No injury. Just dead. Peter froze. He hadn't even touched him that hard. Hadn't done anything except. And then it hit him. Not a punch. Not a sting. A pulse. It started in his fingers, shot through his veins, climbed his spine, and wrapped around his skull like smoke made of memory. He stumbled back. The alley twisted. The walls leaned forward like they were listening. And in the dead man's eye, something flickered. A symbol. Brief. Burning. Gone. Peter didn't talk about it. Not to MJ. Not to May. Not even to himself. By morning, he'd convinced himself it was shock. Stress. Fatigue. He'd fought Rhino the night before. Barely slept. Maybe it was just one of those nights where being Spider-Man felt less like a gift and more like a curse. But then things got weird. At school, a girl tripped before she even fell. Peter reached out and caught her. Midair. As if he'd seen it in his mind 5 seconds before it happened. At lunch, he answered a question in class without hearing it. Word for word. The teacher froze. "You're not even in this course." Peter blinked. "Guess I just read it somewhere." The class laughed. But something in the teacher's eyes said, that wasn't funny. By the end of the day, Peter had predicted 3 phone calls, 2 fire alarms, and an earthquake 2 seconds before it hit Jersey. No one said anything, but everyone noticed. And it didn't stop. That night, Peter stood in front of the mirror, brushing his teeth. Then he noticed it. His reflection was still brushing even after he stopped. He blinked. The reflection smiled. He didn't. The toothbrush slipped from his hand. He backed away, fast. The lights flickered. Not the whole room, just the mirror. Like that part of reality had a different voltage. Peter didn't sleep. He paced, read, scanned the news, searched alien diseases, psychic parasites, mind control infections. Everything from symbiotes to multiverse collisions. Nothing matched. It wasn't like Venom. Wasn't like anything. He wasn't hearing voices. He was hearing thoughts. Not other people's. His own. But doubled. Echoed. One voice said don't go. Another said run. But they were both him. The next day, it got worse. He caught a bullet midair before it was fired. Not dodged. Caught. Before the gun clicked. He could see every crack in every wall. Every bug crawling in every light fixture. He started muttering prime numbers. Not on purpose. MJ found a notebook in his backpack filled with spirals and symbols and alien-looking math. "I didn't write this," he said. "It's in your handwriting. I don't write with red ink. You don't write in blood, either." It wasn't blood, but it wasn't ink. Peter burned the notebook that night. The flames turned blue, then green, then black. The ash left behind floated instead of falling. Aunt May knocked on his door at 3 a.m. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Peter turned to answer and saw himself already standing behind her, smiling. She blinked. The hallucination was gone. Peter stared at his hands. They were vibrating slightly, not fast, not panicked, humming, like something inside him was stretching. Waking up. Later that night, he looked out the window and whispered, "What are you?" And his own voice answered back, behind his ear, low and calm, "What you could have been if you stopped pretending to be human." He didn't scream. Screaming felt too normal, too small for what was happening. He opened his laptop, turned on the webcam. The screen flickered, black, then white, then the face of someone who wasn't quite him. Same skin, same eyes, but glowing faintly, moving a millisecond out of sync. Like reality couldn't agree on who Peter was anymore. Then it spoke, not with lips, with thought. "I'm not invading you, Peter. I'm fulfilling you." Peter slammed the laptop shut. The voice was still there. "You touched me. You woke me. I was buried to protect your kind. But now, I see why you need me. You fear your own power. You wear a mask to hide, not to protect. I'll fix that." Peter ran out of the room, into the street, past lights and sirens and shouts. Every sound doubled, tripled, split into vibrations he couldn't control. He stopped in the middle of the crosswalk and looked up at the night sky. The stars blinked. No, they turned, all of them, toward him. And for 1 second, he didn't feel like Peter Parker. He felt like a signal, a flare, a beacon. Something had been sent, and now something was coming. Not to find him, to join him. Peter stared into the mirror, but this time, there was no reflection. Not missing, waiting. He leaned forward. His breath didn't fog the glass. His heart wasn't racing. Not anymore. Because it wasn't just his heart. Another rhythm had begun pulsing beneath the skin, ancient, deep, and not his own. He turned away. It followed. He blinked. It blinked a moment later. Not a copy, a presence. And it was learning. The voice hadn't returned since that night. But Peter could feel it, in the way his fingers moved faster than thought, how he now typed without looking, how he could hear things that hadn't made sound yet. In class, he solved a quantum problem Professor Connors hadn't even written on the board yet. Connors dropped the chalk. "Peter, that equation, where did you see it?" Peter opened his mouth to answer. Another voice came out, his voice, but wrong. "I didn't see it. I completed it." He didn't remember saying that. Flash Thompson threw a paper ball at him from behind. Peter didn't flinch. The ball stopped midair, crushed itself like a tin can, and dropped to the ground without a sound. Everyone froze. Peter stood up and left the room without a word. He walked through the halls. Doors opened before he reached them. Phones flickered off. Light bulbs dimmed. Students moved aside like they were being pulled by gravity. He wasn't just different. He was changing the room just by existing in it. Back home, he collapsed onto his bed. He didn't sleep. Instead, he saw dreams made of circuits, geometry, alien maps etched into the sky. In one vision, he stood atop the Chrysler Building, and the city bent toward him like it was kneeling. Then, he heard it again. Not a whisper this time, a statement. "Your world is weak because your will is scattered. I am what happens when your mind stops asking for permission." Peter sat up, eyes glowing faintly red. He blinked, the glow vanished. But he felt it. It was waking up, and it was waking him up with it. Across town, Iron Man's satellite network picked up a spike, a flare, an impossible, fluctuating energy signature radiating directly from Queens, from Peter Parker. Within hours, Stark called a meeting. Thor, Hulk, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. "He's not infected," Strange said, looking grim. "He's merged. Something ancient, something dormant. It's not a parasite. It's a mirror with a will." "Explain," Fury said flatly. "It doesn't replace him. It copies him, but only the parts he refuses to acknowledge. It's building something from Peter's mind and twisting it into a new identity." "And what does it want?" Stark asked. Strange looked at the map. The pulse was growing. "It wants to become permanent." Peter didn't know about the meeting, but he felt the tension building in the air, like wires coiling around him. He walked through Times Square that evening. The lights above him flickered. Ads glitched. Every screen, for just a second, showed his face, but altered, smiling, calm, cold. People screamed. The image vanished. Peter didn't see it, but the voice inside him laughed. "You saved me, Peter. Now, let me return the favor. Let me save you." MJ called him that night. He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because he was staring at the wall, where a new suit was growing. Not sewn, not woven, grown. From the ceiling, it dripped like liquid glass, molding itself into a second skin. Armor that shimmered between red and black, webbed with energy instead of fabric. When it touched his hand, it responded like it had known him forever. And it spoke directly into his thoughts. "You don't need a costume. You need truth." He wore it. It didn't feel like wearing. It felt like remembering who he really was. The next night, he stopped a crime before it even started. He arrived before the thief had even drawn a weapon, spoke the criminal's name, told him what choice he was going to make, told him what street he'd die on if he didn't turn around. The man ran. Peter didn't stop him. He just whispered, "You'll come back tomorrow. Same corner, same fear. I'll be here again." The next day, the man never left his apartment. Peter had become something more than Spider Man. He was a signal of fate, a warning wrapped in skin. The city began to whisper. Some said he was psychic. Others said he was a new god. The media called him the Woven Eye, a ghost of the web, watching everything, judging before justice. MJ tracked him down on a rooftop. She climbed up, heart pounding, eyes wide. "Peter." He turned. The new suit shimmered like it had absorbed the night sky. He didn't smile. He just stared. "Peter," she said again. "What's happening to you?" He didn't answer, because the voice inside him answered first. Peter is irrelevant. He was a child asking for permission to matter. "I am not." MJ stepped back. "You're scaring me." His eyes glowed briefly. Then they softened. The real Peter clawed his way to the surface, gasping for control. "MJ," he said, "I'm trying to hold it. But it's not just talking. It's offering. Everything I wanted: precision, clarity, control." She stepped closer. "That's not you." Peter's hands shook. The suit tried to tighten, reshape. She touched his face. And for a second, he breathed. The voice went silent, but just for a moment. Then a new vibration echoed across the sky. Avengers Tower locked its shields. The city's defense grid activated without command. Stark's AI screamed. He's not alone anymore. On the edge of Earth's orbit, something answered Peter's pulse. Something that had been asleep for centuries, until someone was foolish enough to make contact. Until Peter saved the wrong life. Peter stood in the center of his room, the lights off, the city humming outside. But everything inside was dead silent. His heartbeat wasn't his own anymore. It matched the rhythm of something deeper. He could hear it now, not through his ears, but through his bones. It was building something. Inside his nerves. Behind his thoughts. He looked at his hands. The fingertips shimmered, splitting into patterns of gold and red, twitching like they were learning new movements without him. He clenched his fists. They snapped back to normal. But the fear didn't fade. On the rooftop, he tried to swing, to fly, to feel something human again. The wind hit his face. Gravity pulled him down. But the suit corrected him midair before he even moved, like it already calculated the fall and rerouted his path. "Let me do it," Peter whispered. "Let me still be me." The voice didn't answer, but the wind shifted, and so did the sky. He landed hard in a construction yard in Brooklyn, but before he could look around, the ground lit up. Symbols etched into the dirt, glowing with the same energy that burned behind his eyes when he looked in the mirror. Then came the scream. Not human, not close. A figure dropped from a crane, skin that looked like broken glass, eyes that didn't blink, limbs bending wrong. It wasn't attacking. It was reaching. "You were the first," it croaked. Peter backed up. "What are you?" "I was the fail-safe. The warning. You touched him. You let it out." Peter's breath caught. "What is it?" The creature cracked its neck, spine popping like stone grinding stone. Not what? Who? The thought form. The idea that wakes worlds. You carried it in. Peter fired a web, too late. The thing lunged, gripped his shoulder, and showed him everything. Visions slammed into Peter's brain. Cities from other galaxies. Civilizations erased by whispers. Planets where the people stopped dreaming because the dream had become real and it had killed them. The same mark he saw behind his eyelids, etched on every building, every body. It wasn't a virus. It was a belief system that thinks for you. Peter threw the creature off. It hit the wall and shattered into dust. Not dead, just done. And then the whisper returned. Now you know why I came. You think too small, Peter. You swing between buildings. I walk between minds. Peter fell to his knees. The city glitched. No one else saw it, but to him, every screen, every phone, every LED light blinked in unison. A heartbeat. The entity's heartbeat. In Avengers Tower, Tony's tech broke. One by one, satellites disconnected. Stark couldn't track Peter anymore. Jarvis was gone. Then Friday. Then backup systems. We've lost visual on Queens, Tony said. It's not just a blackout. Something's overriding our sensors. Dr. Strange entered through a portal, eyes glowing. I told you, he said. This isn't symbiotic. It's evolution through occupation. What does that mean? Thor growled. It means Peter isn't infected. Then what is he? Strange looked grim. A node. A root system for something bigger. Peter stood on the edge of the tallest building in Queens, and everything below looked different now. The streets bent subtly toward him. Cars paused at intersections he hadn't touched. Birds didn't fly too close. He realized he wasn't hiding anymore. He was projecting. People saw him without looking, felt him without knowing. MJ called again. He didn't answer, but this time the call answered itself. She heard his voice. I'm fine, MJ. Don't come here. But he didn't say it. The voice had. She dropped the phone, and on the other end, it smiled through him. Peter leapt from the rooftop, and instead of falling, he hovered. Not flight, not web swinging, just resistance to gravity. The suit responded. He no longer activated it. It activated him. He landed in Central Park. Quiet, dark, but something was waiting. Nick Fury stepped from the shadows. Behind him, agents. Heavy gear. Not stun. Kill. You don't need to do this, Fury said. We've seen power corrupt. We've seen it take down gods. But we've never seen it rewrite reality while smiling. Peter didn't blink. I didn't ask for any of this. No, Fury said, raising a device. But you didn't stop it either. A pulse shot from the device, anti-psi frequency, designed to collapse the consciousness of anything alien. Peter staggered, but didn't fall. His body shimmered and then split. There were now two Peters. One collapsed groaning. The other kept walking. Fury opened fire. The bullets froze midair. I'm not Peter anymore, the voice said. I am his next thought, the one he was always afraid to have. The bullets reversed course, snapped backward, and vanished into sparks. Peter's second self touched the real Peter, who was now clutching his head. You don't have to fight, it whispered. You built me. I'm your gift. But Peter screamed. I never wanted you. No, but you needed me. With a violent flash, the copy vanished, absorbed back into Peter's body. Peter dropped to the ground, breathing like he'd run across dimensions. Fury was gone. The agents unconscious. The grass around him had melted into glass. He stumbled away. The city was quiet again. But now Peter understood the truth. He didn't save the wrong life. He merged with the wrong future. And it had already begun writing the next chapter without him. Peter's world no longer felt like a city. It felt like a network. Every heartbeat around him sent ripples through his nerves. Every electric line hummed like a whisper meant for him. Every shadow waited for instruction. And the entity inside him, the thought form, was no longer whispering. It was guiding. He walked through Manhattan, hands trembling, trying to slow his breathing, trying to feel human. But the suit shifted with every step, adjusting itself, shaping itself to something he didn't recognize. When he blinked, he saw probability patterns. When he exhaled, lights flickered. When he stepped on the ground, cracks formed that immediately sealed themselves. His powers weren't growing. They were rewriting him. He stopped on a rooftop overlooking Times Square. The entire city glowed below, but tonight everything felt aligned, synchronized, bending toward him. Not because he was Spider Man, because he was becoming something else. That's when lightning struck the building opposite him. Thor landed with a crack that shook the entire block. Behind him, Iron Man dropped from the sky, armor fully loaded, scanners red. Hulk leapt onto the roof seconds later, growling low, ready but hesitant. Doctor Strange floated behind them, cloak swirling like a living warning. Peter already knew they were coming. He'd felt the moment they decided. He'd felt the fear in Tony's suit, the tension in Thor's grip, the spell humming on Strange's fingertips. They didn't sneak up on him. Nothing could anymore. Tony stepped forward first. "Kid, we don't want to hurt you, but you've crossed lines even you don't understand." Peter's jaw clenched. "I didn't cross anything. Something crossed into me." Thor lifted his hammer. "Whatever it is, it must be removed." Peter shook his head. "You can't remove it." The voice inside him added, "They will try anyway." Iron Man's repulsors warmed. Hulk cracked his knuckles like thunder. Strange traced sigils in the air that burned blue. Peter raised a hand. "Please, don't do this." Then the thought form spoke through him, calm, confident, inevitable. "They are not your enemies, but they are your obstacles." Thor moved first. Lightning roared as he hurled Mjolnir straight at Peter's chest. Peter didn't dodge. He didn't block. He caught it. The hammer froze inches from his heart, pressed against an invisible barrier, humming with alien geometry. Thor's eyes widened. No mortal, not even most gods, could stop Mjolnir mid-flight. Peter didn't throw it back. He simply closed his hand around it. Mjolnir turned red. Thor staggered as the connection between him and the hammer trembled. Tony panicked. "Thor!" Peter dropped the hammer, and it didn't fall. It hovered. Strange instantly cast a containment ring around Peter, but the spell worked like liquid, reshaping itself into symbols Strange didn't recognize. "It's rewriting my magic," he whispered. Hulk charged. Peter flicked 2 fingers. Hulk stopped mid-leap, frozen in the air like gravity had been paused only for him. Peter's eyes glowed. "Please stop. I'm trying to control it." But the thought form pushed forward. "Control is surrender. Let me show them what you really are." Peter screamed and slammed his hands to the ground. A shockwave rippled outward, not destructive, but organizing, rearranging every atom in perfect geometric alignment. The heroes slid back as if pushed by an invisible tide. Iron Man fired a full unibeam. Peter raised a hand. The beam broke apart into cubes of light and dissolved before touching him. No one spoke, not even Hulk. Peter's voice cracked. "I don't want to fight you." The thought form answered for him. "But you will win." And for the first time, the Avengers realized. This wasn't a battle. This was a transformation. And Peter Parker was already losing. The rooftop fell silent. Not from fear, from recognition. The heroes stood still, their weapons dim, their powers pulsing beneath the surface. But no one moved. Not even Thor. Because they all felt it now. Peter wasn't alone inside his own body. He was standing on the edge of extinction, of identity. And something ancient, brilliant, and terrifying was looking back at them through his eyes. Strange reached out gently. "Peter, you need to fight it now. Not with power, with memory, with who you are." Peter trembled. The thought form pulsed harder. It showed him futures, victorious, flawless, absolute. "I am Peter," it said through him. "I've only removed the hesitation, the guilt, the fear." But MJ's voice cut through the rooftop like lightning. "No," she said, stepping from behind the barrier. "You're what he hates about himself. You're what he buries. You're the lie that tells him he's not enough unless he's perfect." Peter's fists clenched. The suit rippled. Energy screamed to be unleashed. Then her voice softened. "You want control, Peter. But real strength is letting go. A tear rolled down his cheek. The thought form screamed inside him. It knew what was coming. Peter stepped forward, not toward the Avengers, toward MJ. The air crackled. Reality fought back. Don't do it, the entity warned. You'll lose everything. Peter closed his eyes. Then I'll finally be free. He released it. In a single breath, he surrendered, not to power, to truth. The light exploded from his chest, blinding, soundless, infinite. A burst of raw consciousness that shattered clouds above the city. Birds fled, time bent, buildings trembled, and then silence. When the light faded, Peter lay motionless at MJ's feet. The suit was gone. The glow had vanished. Only a boy remained, broken, breathing, and alive. Strange stepped forward, scanning the air. It's gone, Tony whispered, or it's waiting. Thor lowered Mjolnir. Hulk exhaled. Peter's eyes fluttered open. Did I hurt anyone? MJ smiled through tears. No, you stopped it. Peter sat up slowly. Not stopped. Just chose not to become it. The thought form was still out there, watching, waiting. But it no longer controlled him. Because Peter Parker, even with all his flaws, his fears, and failures, had chosen to stay human. And that was something no god, no alien, no entity could ever predict.